This is Larry Henry at Gambling.com. Welcome to The Edge. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Shannon Lane, who's a content specialist at Gambling.com. Shannon, good to see you, and thanks for joining me today. You know, in Missouri, 38 states have legal sports betting. Shockingly, the two biggest states in the country, California and Texas, don't. That's another issue we could talk about at another time. But the next state to come online is Missouri. Now, here's the conundrum. Here's the thing that's got people confused in Missouri. In November, the vote came down to legalize sports betting in Missouri. Baseball season is underway. There's no bigger baseball state, maybe California, maybe New York, than Missouri with the Cardinals and the Royals. Right now, you can walk across the border to Kansas, across from Kansas City. The two biggest cities are on border. It's 8 of the states that border Missouri. Only one doesn't have sports betting, Oklahoma. The rest do, including Kansas. You can walk across the border from Kansas City. You can go across the Mississippi River from St. Louis and bet on sports. Now, NFL season's coming up. Can't bet on baseball yet. Can you bet on it in the fall? And what's going to happen when NFL season starts? Why can't everybody wants to know in Missouri? Listen, we voted for it. It's legal. Why can't I get on my phone and start betting? What's going on in Missouri, Shannon?
Yeah, so like every state, Missouri has its own unique way of bringing sports betting online. That's kind of been the whole um, trend since 2018, and Missouri is no different. So, like you mentioned, Missouri voters voted to approve sports betting back in November. Um, and part of that stipulation was that it has to go live by December 1st of this year. So, which seems great. Like, cool, we know when we're going to be able to bet. But it's proven to be more complicated than that. Um, so the Secretary of State did not approve emergency sports betting rules to go into effect, said it didn't count as an emergency to push sports betting rules through. And so now the earliest that those rules could go in place and that sports betting platforms could actually go live at the very earliest now is August 30th. Which puts us at towards the very end of MLB season, starts to get into postseason. You know, there's already by that point a lot of teams that aren't relevant anymore are out of it. So are bettors going to be motivated to bet by that point? I don't know. And then you have like 1 week until the NFL season starts. That's a really quick turnaround between August 30th and NFL kickoff. So feels like it's threading a needle a little bit to be able to land that perfect, between those two dates launch. The Secretary of State's office also said that the latest possible date that the rules would be able to go live would be September 30th. And at that point, we're like 4 weeks into the NFL season. And we've missed a good chunk of the excitement when people are really motivated and like everyone's team is live in those first 4 weeks. By the time you get to week 4 or 5, there's a good chance that your team is not where you thought it would be. Maybe not for Missouri voters because they have the Chiefs. But you're missing a large chunk of the really important time in the NFL season. So you may be sitting watching the Chiefs for the first 4 weeks of the season and theoretically not able to bet on them, even though this amendment has already been approved.
Well, and that's the funny thing about it because I think, nobody knows the NFL better than you. I think the first NFL game is always after Labor Day, that Thursday, and the
Mhm.
Super Bowl winning. So I think it's going to be September 4th, the Eagles. The schedule will come out after the draft
Right.
sometime in May. So we don't know exactly what the schedule is. But you're right. Yeah. So all those early season games, everybody's going to be, nothing's bigger to sports bettors and fans than the
Mhm.
NFL. So you've got that lag time. Thank you for clarifying that because everybody's going to wonder. They're wondering now that baseball season's underway and the NBA playoffs are coming up, So everybody wants to know, why can't I get on my phone? So thanks for clarifying that. And you've got, and you said it beautifully. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs, the chefs, as the old commercial used to, the misspelling in the end zone. But there's no bigger player than Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the whole Chiefs aura. Um,
Mhm.
2 Super Bowls in recent years. They were won 2 Super Bowls. Were in it last year. They're going to be a
Mhm.
dominant force for a long time. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of excitement that builds up to it. When you look at what happens around Missouri. Every
Mhm.
state, Illinois, and I know by the way, I'm thinking of St. Louis, who had the Rams. Remember, for years the NFL wasn't even in LA, shockingly enough, and now the Rams are gone, clearly. But Kansas City, the Chiefs are still a state. Well, we're not
Mhm.
gonna get the interstate series between the Royals and the Cardinals. That's
Mhm.
in May and June.
Right.
I talked to Jan Zimmerman, the chairwoman of the, gaming commission. She said we may not even get the World Series in
Mhm.
October. I think the last game is September 29th, regular season, something like that. So you're right. You've got a big lag time. What do you say to bettors in Missouri? Just bet. One of the things Jan Zimmerman told me is just, when you look back on it, when the Super Bowl comes and all that, people will forget about it. But what do you say to Missouri bettors in that lag time, as you mentioned, between August 30th and December 1? And why does it take so long to vet all these sports betting companies?
Well, it goes hand in hand with why states legalize sports betting one by one in the first place. Each state is given the power to set up their own sports betting rules and guidelines. And so what they have to do is go through and vet every single sports betting operator that wants to come online in that state, not just the operators, but their betting providers, any other, affiliate companies that they work with. Um, the government departments and a lot of other, regulatory bodies have to check everything out and make sure that they do what they say they're going to do, make sure that your money stays safe, make sure that they can protect people's, personal information, and make sure that, they're doing right by the betters. So that's why it takes so long to do that. Despite, the approval happening in November, it's not an overnight thing. Every state, including Missouri, really wants to get sports betting launches right. If they don't, there could be a lot of blowback, and it's frankly not in the bettor's best interest, for sportsbooks to go live immediately after they're approved. There's a lot of really knowledgeable people that can look at this from kind of a bird's eye view and make sure that you and your money and your data are staying protected. Um, there also needs to be a lot of responsible gambling guardrails also set up. And all of that needs to be in place by the time a sportsbook goes live so that when you sign up as a Missouri bettor, you can feel confident that this, company has been vetted and that you as a bettor and a consumer are, going to be safe.
That's an excellent point because we are right now, and this is a conversation we can have later, and we need to have this conversation later. With prediction markets going on, there's a lot of you really can't bet on sports anywhere in the country right now. But a lot of that you can even bet illegally overseas. A lot of that's unregulated, untaxed. You're not protected as a bettor. So to get those guardrails in place and to be sure that everybody is appropriately vetted is very significant. And that's a great point because as a bettor, you want to be protected. You don't want to have your money at risk.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things that's occurred too, and you mentioned something to me in a message on Slack one time about one of the benefits of a lot of the attention that the Chiefs get. But I'm thinking back to the launch in some other states. You mentioned the launch, and you're absolutely right. In every state, there are certain rules. The state police will be involved in investigation, the Attorney General's office, to be sure that bettors are protected. I'm thinking back to the launch in Louisiana. Ronnie Johns, who was the chairman of the Gaming Control Board at that time, he since has retired. He positioned the launch of sports betting in Louisiana around the Big Saints game. I think
Mhm.
it, as I recall, it may have been the Tampa Bay game, and so it was a big rival. Tom Brady was the quarterback of the Bucks at the time, so I think Bobby Hebert, former, not he wasn't an LSU quarterback, but former Saints quarterback, big Louisiana star, I think placed one of the first bets, if not the first bet. So he
Mhm.
built it around a big NFL game for the launch. In North Carolina, huge basketball state,
Mhm.
Duke, UNC, the Tar Heels, Wake, you got a lot of really big basketball teams, big basketball culture in North Carolina. They built their launch around the ACC tourney and the NC2A March Madness.
Mhm.
So one of the things maybe uh, this hasn't been announced, but you made me think about it when you were talking on that Slack message about one of the big promotional advantages that that Missouri may have with their launch, maybe they build around a launch around the Chiefs because you're right. People are going to, by then, baseball will have been down the road. World
Mhm.
Series will be in play possibly, but it'll still be all about the football season.
Yeah.
And by the way, Missouri is an SEC state. University of
Mhm.
Missouri is an SEC school. So you got the Bamas, the LSUs, the Tennessees. You got a lot of big football culture, college football culture too.
Mhm.
Back to the Chiefs, and one of the things maybe promotionally you were talking to me about that actually could work to their advantage, possibly promotionally, is a big dating scene that goes on with every Chiefs game that we watch. What's that all about?
Well, I think that you've already seen across a lot of other places, and a lot of other sectors around football that there is a real Taylor Swift effect. Um, I would not be surprised at all if that attracted more people to betting. It, at the very least, has gotten more eyeballs on football in Missouri and nationwide. So does that open up the pool of people who are interested in placing bets? Do they incorporate some kind of Swifty specials like they did for the Super Bowl? I think all of that is in play. Um, I I think that I think Taylor Swift being in the sphere of the NFL has already kind of shaken up so much conventional wisdom about how the league operates and who the fans are, and by extension who the bettors would be. That I wouldn't be surprised at all if they sell it, if there's some kind of packaging around that. And also, not to mention, but BetMGM has been a partner of the Chiefs for a long time. And they've had some signage in the stadium, little things like that before betting was even, kind of on the table. So I think there's a real possibility that they go really hard around a significant Chiefs game. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a special guest in the stadium for a game like that.
So having Taylor Swift cast or put the place to first bet might be a little more promotional worthy than Bobby Abear, possibly.
I would think so. I think somebody would have to fork over a pretty big check for that to happen. But yeah, I would think that that would get more attention to Missouri sports betting.
And you brought up a good point too. So really, when you get down to what's going to happen in Missouri, 13 riverboat casinos, 13 casinos, they'll be able to have on-site sports betting in Missouri. The sports teams, everybody from the St. Louis Blues, the hockey team, to the Cardinals, to the Royals, to the Chiefs, they can have on-site and
Mhm.
mobile sports betting. Gaming regulators, I think, have also 2 licenses available, so there will be a lot of opportunity for people in
Mhm.
Missouri to vote in person, uh, or on mobile apps, and that's a real good point. So it's an online state and an in-person state. Unlike Tennessee, right next door to them, one of the few mobile-only states, you'll be able to do both in Missouri.
Mhm.
Uh, and you mentioned the alliance with BetMGM. Are some other things going on? So right now we're in a phase where some of those alliances and some of those I don't really know what the right word is I'm looking for, but some of those branding opportunities are occurring. Uh,
Mhm.
Anything new on that front in addition to what you just mentioned?
Yeah, I think interestingly, and coinciding right before the beginning of the MLB season, Bet365 announced that they would be an official sports betting partner of the Cardinals, which is a strong sign that Bet365 may be making a play to, try to go for a license in Missouri, considering that sports teams can be granted licenses. I think partnering with a team is probably brand's best best shot at getting a license. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bet365 goes live. But I think it's gonna add to the confusion in the meantime because the Bet365 partnership comes with some naming rights that are going to be in the stadium. So fans going to games in person to see the Cardinals over the next couple months are going to see signage and branding, opportunities in the stadium for Bet365, but they're not actually going to be able to open the Bet365 app on their phone, and participate in betting on the game that they're watching. And I think, the MGM potentially has the same things around Arrowhead Stadium. So um, I think that is going to add to a little bit of the confusion in the interim. And so, I could see some people starting to get a little frustrated by the time that betting actually does go live, because people will have felt like they've been waiting and seeing it, in their faces a lot, but not actually be able to capitalize.
That's a really good point. And before we close, just a final thought on what the average bettor, just the regular person waiting in Missouri to place a bet. I don't want to get ahead of what the gaming commission will approve and who's applying and all of that. That's all going to come out. But, you know,
Mhm.
the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the BetMGMs, you just mentioned the cards, a branding opportunity. I'm sure I mean, I don't know who the Caesar sports books, you're going to have an array
Mhm.
of apps available and on-site sports betting available for the bettor. So basically, without being too flippant about it, is it safe to say just hold your horses? It's coming. It won't be there for the Chiefs' first kickoff, probably.
Probably.
Maybe not for the World Series if the Cards or Royals make it, or whoever else.
Mhm.
But it's coming. Is that by December 1st? It has to come. Is that sort of the message to the average sport? What's that? What would you say to the average sports bettor who right now wants to know when can I roll?
Yeah, I think definitely, like, hang tight. It's coming. It constitutionally has to happen by December 1st. So it's definitely coming. I think that the most important thing that, a an average bettor can do is to stay informed and make sure that you are keeping up with um, the latest updates, because that's how you're going to get information about which brands are going live, which ones have been approved, which ones are going to be officially licensed, and where you can place bets in person. It's going to have information about how to download apps, what kind of information you need to give to an app when you're signing up. Probably this is probably a lot of people's first chance actually getting to dig into what a betting app looks like. So I would say the biggest thing that you can do is, like, stay informed from, both, you know every outlet that you possibly can, including us, because we're covering everything that's going on in Missouri, because we want bettors to be informed so that it's not catching you by surprise the day before, and you feel like you're caught off guard. I think that's probably where you can get into the area where you might be making mistakes, is if you're caught off guard. So I think being prepared as much as you can, and knowing that it's going to be a little bit of a slow road, and going in with that expectation, I think is really going to help, the average sports bettor, so that you don't get too frustrated by the time that it actually goes live.
Excellent point, and not to sound too self-serving, but you're right. Shannon and her team do a fantastic job at Gambling.com in keeping everybody informed and what's going on with the latest in Missouri and around the country, actually. But right now, a lot of eyes are on Missouri in the state. People want to know when they can bet. So pay attention to our site, and then keep in mind too. At the end of the day, as we get into winter and you're going to be able to start betting in Missouri before December 1st. Look at what's coming. You've got the NFL playoffs. You're going to have the college football playoffs and championship. And of course, the field of college teams has expanded now. So there's a lot more
Mhm.
excitement. Always been a lot of excitement around it, but even more excitement now. And you're
Mhm.
also going to have, and correct me, I think it's February 8th or 9th, Shannon, something like that, the Super Bowl out in Levi, out in the Bay Area. I think
Yeah.
it's February 8th and 9th. In other words, early February. I'm not sure the exact date. It may be the 8th. But anyway, the point is a lot of that's going to be, even if it's not legalized until right up against December 1st, and I think most people think it'll be before that.
Mhm.
Um, there's still a lot of really big football betting action. And you made a great point when we started about how the Chiefs are players. I mean, the
Mhm.
Chiefs are gonna be a significant force in the NFL, so even
Yeah.
then, even if there is some frustration, you got a lot of big stuff coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that the Chiefs are going to be relevant into December and January. So, in Missouri, is there going to be an advantage that maybe missing the first couple weeks isn't going to be that big of a deal as it maybe would be in another state? I think that's definitely part of it. And I think the other part that is going to be important. You brought up the college football playoffs and how important that is in Missouri as well. I think the other thing that's going to be really important to pay attention to is whatever rules and guidelines come out about what you can and can't bet on as it pertains to college sports, because that's been an area where there's been a lot of changes and movement in other states. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, rules come out that include sports betting regulations, baked in, and rather than going back and figuring them out later. So I would definitely pay really close attention to the types of bets that you can place on the sports that are happening in Missouri, to make sure that can set your expectations accordingly, and that um, you know, can actually place, the legal bets that you want to place.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Shannon Lane, content specialist, Gambling.com. Thank you so much. And let me please again urge everybody, Shannon and her team do a fantastic job. Gambling.com's news tab, go to that tab. There'll be a lot of information, a lot of betting opportunities, a lot of opportunities to get some promotional information and that sort of thing. So check out Shannon and her team. We'll be back. We're going to talk some more, Shannon and I, later about the NFL and a lot of other things. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm Larry Henry at Gambling.com. Thank you.